This is the proverbial tying of our shoes at different times, right? You know, if you don't know how to tie your shoes, then I can't teach you to run a marathon, right? If you don't know even how to tie your shoes. So what is it, 90% of people what?
Like 250,000 or less.
Or less, okay?
2%.
I always start with the left side. I don't go right into the both, right?
Is
So
it
the-
98 or is it 95?
98, okay, 98%. Now, if you want to do 95 and 5, right, to me it's the concept.
Statistically though, like
98%,
actually.
right, pretty much 98%. That's why you have the top 1% that you do well with. So it's 98% of people, okay? So 90% of people make under 250,000 a year. That's how I start with people, just like that, T. I always start off with the question.
Where did it go?
So
Yeah, where
ask
less
them.
than.
Questions are important in a presentation because if you're just talking at people, right, questions stimulate your prospect's mind. Because they have to, like, instead of like judging your presentation or the way you smell or like, you know, I'm tired, or, you know, so if someone's in their head, because if I'm talking to you, right, just like I'm talking to you guys tonight, I'm talking at you, even though I think you're listening, your mind could be totally somewhere else. So the way you do that is, that's why teachers used to pick on you when you were talking to class. Right? Because when you have a question, you have to react. So ask questions, don't just talk at people. 90% of people make $250 less. So Jen, where do most people put their money at? I'm sure you have any questions.
The banks.
All right, so you want to write banks. Okay. And Jen, what kind of accounts do you have in banks?
Savings,
Yep.
checking.
Okay, so I always put checking, I put savings. I ask this question, how much interest do you earn in a checking account?
0.
Right? So you'll gauge also their knowledge base when they'll tell you answers like, I don't know. Right? If they don't know how much they earn in a checking account, they really don't know a lot about money, right? Some people will be like, you earn nothing in a checking account, 0, right? So they're like, okay, this person's kind of keen to the game a little bit. 0%, sometimes you have to pay for checking. What's the savings account?
0.
Yeah, I've seen them to 0.02 to 0.09, okay? So if you look up, you can go to bankrate.com, right? You can look all this stuff up, but 0.02, pretty much nothing. So what does that mean actually, 0.02%? That's in the cents category, right? That means that of every $100, you're earning 2 cents a year. Congratulations, right? Big money, right? Big money. What's the other account?
Or CDs?
CDs, right? What does M stand for? MM, money markets. So money markets and CDs, right? Certificates of deposit. Money markets are instruments, right? They're called actual instruments, right? Not like a musical instrument, but like a savings instruments that you can get at a bank, that they lock in your money for a certain period of time in return for higher interest. Now, people say, hey, they're giving me a good interest rate. Again, the question is compared to what?
How much
Right.
is it typically?
Typically, right now, interest rates, you're looking at 0.5% to 1%. So just probably 1%. Keep it as simple as possible. This is so true, right? This is where most people's money at. Ask this vital question, is the cost of living going up or down?
Up.
It's going up, right? People will say that, it's going up. And the cost of living, we call that inflation, it's close to 4%. Like, how easy is it to spend $100?
Oh my God.
Like, it's ridiculous how far $100 goes.
20 is nothing nowadays too.
$20 is
It's
nothing.
like a happy meal.
So, cost of living is at 4%. Most people put their money in savings, and I circle the savings just like this, and then it's simple math. So if you're earning 0.02% and the cost of living is 4, simple math, negative 3.98%. We're losing money. Does that make sense? Now I go to the other side. So I want to focus on one side before I focus on the other side. The reason I focus on one side because it's a very stark contrast. And you want to have contrast in your presentation. So say now the top 2% makes $250,000 or more. Now where do they put their money at? Well, they may not know. But I asked them these questions. Have you heard of company, you could write the initials down. Have you heard of companies like Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab, right? You can put Edward Jones. They may say, yeah, I've heard of them. No, I haven't heard of them. Well, that's where the top 2% put their money in. And I asked this question. Why do these companies, these are good companies, why do they focus here on the top 2% and not the 98%? Why is that?
So those aren't like banks.
Yes, they are.
They are banks.
They are called investment banks.
Okay.
So there's commercial banks that deal with day-to-day checking savings, mutual funds, and then you have investment banks. So just like you have Wells Fargo, B of A on every corner,
Yeah.
right? In Wall Street, you have investment banks on that street. Goldman Sachs, okay, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, right? UBS. These are investment banks. And investment banks are bank accounts that are linked into the stock market.
What is
right.
CS in the bottom one again?
Charles Schwab, Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch. Okay, so I want them to know, like, there is a contrast here. I always say, why do these companies here focus here and not here? What do you think they do that?
There's more money there.
It's as simple as that. Those companies focus there because that's where their most return of profit is going to be from a high net worth client versus someone that can save $200 a month. They don't want to deal with the clients that we serve. I can't wait for you to have that realization when you're out there. You're like, one of the most powerful things that I realized is that when I helped a family and I knew in that instant that if it wasn't for me in that moment, they would have never had anyone come to the house to give them this education. They just didn't fit the mold of anyone that any advisor would probably like, what, I would waste my time sitting with someone like that. There's no money there. And it just blows my mind that like, wow, now this person has education and they have a plan. Even if they're starting with $50 a month, they have something. And they have a little bit of hope. Right? They have a little bit like, wow, are you telling me it's possible for me? Yes, it's possible for you. That's what I love about what we do. All right, I'm preaching to you guys. Back to basics. Okay, so what kind of accounts? So I start with this. So stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate. And what I'll have you do, right, and here's what I did. I did not understand stocks, bonds, and mutual funds when I came into this business. I've heard the names before, I didn't understand them. You know what I did? I YouTubed them. What is a stock? What is a bond? What is a mutual fund? Right? What does rate of return mean? I would always look at the terminology and be like, what does that mean? And I would study it. I knew that if I knew this, like that's the beauty of this is like one client, guys. The reason I can have 20 grand a month this month, one client. One client who's 62, who had his money with Edward Jones. When he first met Isaac a year ago, this guy was like, Isaac's a kid. Like he really did look at Isaac as like, I've been on this planet way longer than this guy. What's he know about money? And Isaac brought these new indexing, strategies to him about lifetime income. So a year later, he's like, you know what? I see the stock market. I'm in your retirement. I think I want to look into this lifetime income thing. And it took a year, and he's rolling over $233,000. Right? And so this one place, right, coupled with his other things that he's got paying, but that one client's almost 10 G's in commission. Just one. Just so you know, right? What would 10 G's do for you? It took him a year though. But that's what I'm saying, one client can totally change your life here. This is the only industry where one client, and it's gonna happen, there's gonna be someone that lands one client that pays them over $1 million in commission. It's gonna happen. Right? Who hopes it's them? I hope it's me. Right? But I wanted to know my game, right? Because what happens if you know this? How do you feel? Keyword confident. And there's a very psychological thing about human beings. This is why con artists are really good at exuding the emotion of confidence, because even though I may not know anything what I'm talking about, as long as you perceive me to be confident, I can put you in a hypnotic trance and take advantage of you. Because we as human beings, we succumb when someone takes lead. Like, this is the thing about, we're a herd species. So when someone acts in a leadership capacity, we tend to follow that person. Even though they have no idea what the hell they're doing, they at least look like they know what they're doing, so therefore I'm going to submit to their advance. So you gotta be willing to go out there and share this stuff confidently and know that people are like, gonna eat it up. I've never had anyone say, this is all BS. You know, we had a white guy in Yuma, which is like, it's predominantly Hispanic. He was the only white guy in the audience, right? And he like gave all the credibility to all the Hispanics, because Hispanics are real skeptical, especially Mexicans, right? Because they're hearing this stuff for like the first time. And he got up, he's like, before I leave, can I say something? Can I come up there and say something? And I was like, oh great, what's this guy gonna go up here and say? And I just did this on a whiteboard to about 20 people, and you know, mostly Spanish speakers, but he was the only one Caucasian dude in there. He's like, I'm 64 years old, and I've seen a lot of sales pitches over my time. But everything this man is saying right here is absolutely true. And I was like, I looked around here, I was like, I didn't pick this guy to say that, right? He was like, this is exactly how it is, right? And I've never seen it broken down so simply before. Kudos to you, young man. Right? I hope people really get this. Ask Isaac about it, right? His name was Bill Bowditch.
We should do that every time.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, okay, cool, this stuff works. Right?
That's awesome.
What do we earn? 6 to 12%.
Yeah.
6 to 12%, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the math.
That's what those earn.
Those are
on
the average performances.
For those ones in particular.
Yes, for these types of accounts.
Okay.
Okay? Why don't most of our family or friends have these types of accounts?
Because they don't know about it?
They don't know. Because nobody ever educated them on it. Why? Because they fall over here. Right? They don't fall into this category. That's
Now,
what your job is, to change that.
is that only if the market goes up or no?
Well, we're talking indexing now, right?
Okay.
The point is
Oh, okay.
just general basis is average everyday people do not have simple foundational knowledge on how this side of the fence works. And your job is to change that. Okay, so you must teach them what these guys know that you don't know. That's the whole purpose of this diagram. The averages are earning 6. So look at this, is average. And notice how the averages are above the cost of living. So if I'm earning 12% and the cost of living is 4, inflation impacts La Jolla the same as it impacts San Isidro, California. Right? Everybody lives at 4%. We all got to pay to live here. Okay? But if I'm earning 12% on my money and the cost of living is 4, I'm still earning 8%. Now, if you understand percentages, it's very simple. All this means is that for every dollar that you have over here, that dollar generates another 8 cents per dollar on its own. So that money is literally manifesting more money. Does that make sense? For every dollar that we trade time for and we put in a savings over here, that dollar is literally losing 4 cents per dollar. Does that make sense? This is why this is such a huge thing to show your client. Rich get richer and poor get poorer. That's exactly the truth, by the way. You're either having your money working for you or you're working hard for money. That's it. That's all. It's very simple as that. What tax code are employees under? W what?
2?
W-2. W-2 is the most heavily taxed population on the planet. All right? The government makes most of its revenue off of a W-2 employee, because think about when you get your paycheck as a W-2, who gets their money first? You or the government? When you're 1099, when you're a corporation or your business owner, who gets their money first? You or the government? You do.
Everyone looks at that like a bad thing from this side.
Of course, because it's easy.
You're gonna have to pay tax. Don't spend that money. You're gonna have to pay tax on it.
You'd be amazed that a multimillionaire what the corporation pays less in taxes than a W-2 employee who makes $50,000 a year. You know what the corporate tax is right now for a corporation? 20%.
So if you make 100,000, you keep 80.
You know what $100,000 is for a W-2 right now? 33%. For every 100,000 you're making, you're paying 33,000 back to the government. As a corporate tax, 20%, because the corporate is an entity.
What if you don't have a corporation? You just make the
Well,
W-9.
that's the thing that changed, right? And I gotta give, the one thing that Trump did from an economic standpoint, right, is really helped out. Right now, if you're 1099
Yeah.
versus a W-2 100,000 earner, the 1099 pays less in tax because we got another 20% deduction versus the W-2. This is absolutely true. I posted on the Facebook page the other day, right? It showed the numbers. I'm like, wow. So you're actually making more money. So what Trump is doing is he's, from that standpoint, I give him credit because from an economic standpoint, he's giving control to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
This is why you see more people on the Republican side they're more fiscal. Our Republicans are more go economy, go green, go business, right? Which
Yeah.
to me, I'm fiscally conservative, right? In other ways, I'm very liberal. But when it comes to money, I'm very much like that because I don't want the government in my business, right? I just want to go and support my family. Does that make sense? That's the beauty of us, is we have control. We have total control here. So, in other words, is what do? We show people on this side how to go from here to here. High education. Do you see the value in that? Very important question. Do you see the value in that prospect? Yeah. So what you just told me is, here's where I'm at. I have no idea how this works, but this is where I'd like to be, and that you would help me go from here to here by just giving me an education? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. How do I learn more about that? That's it. That's really the emphasis of this. And then your close is you got to have a call to action. So I guess the option we do is we can do a 10 to 30 year plan for you. That's totally complimentary. Or if you ever had an entrepreneur, I can show you how to get there in the next 5 to 7 years as an entrepreneur. What makes more sense to you? Client, business side, or both? I can do that so much, and you're like, that's all you needed to do. If you just learned to master that, and you had 10 people that mastered that, you take over San Diego. And this is all I started doing. I didn't start doing technical appointments. I would just call like my friend, and I'd be like, hey sir, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm just chilling, just got home from work. What's up? What are you doing? I actually have an appointment in your neighborhood. I wanted to pop by and say hi and show you something that I'm really excited about. Yeah, pop by. Okay, maybe you can be a referral source for me. Okay, cool. And I literally do a napkin presentation like within 7 minutes. I'd be like, I want to show that to you because I thought about you. And so I just wanted to know, like, I don't know if you have a financial plan or help getting out of debt, or you ever thought about making more money because I'm building a business here, right? So does any of that appeal to you? Client side, business side, or both? Yeah, you know what? That's really interesting. All right, cool. All right. Why don't you come this Saturday? I want to show you, come to my office. I want you to see this in a little bit more detail. Perfect. I would do pop-bys all the time. Right? I just want to share my ideas, plant seeds. So think like a farmer. I would just seed plant, seed plant, seed plant. And throughout the next 3 months, I'm just going to water it. Right? And eventually it's going to sprout. Go ahead.
Do those companies have a limit? Like, so if someone were to do this presentation, could I just be like, I'm going to take my money and just stick it in Merrill Lynch?
Not a clue, right? They won't do it. I promise you right now.
It doesn't work.
Merrill Lynch, you understand, right? Merrill Lynch is an assets under management company.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to Merrill Lynch and say, I want to put $200 a month in the plan.
Right.
Right? A broker is going to be like, I'm sorry, we don't do that. You go to your bank for that. All right? They smile and dial every day. They don't talk to you unless you have $250,000 to invest, because the way they get paid, they don't do insurance. Right? They do investments solely. And investments, they earn 1% of assets under management per year. That's their residual income as a broker, as an advisor. 1%. So what's 1% of 250,000? So if 10% is 25,000, what's 1% of 250,000? $2,500 a year. That's all they get, right?
I'm confused.
So the way an investment, like a broker in the stock market.
Oh, that's how they make money.
That's how they make money. They don't do, life insurance and IULs, right? They do assets under management. Okay? So we could spend more time talking about that. I know I don't want to stay overnight, but I want to just switch up and get that call to action, get it down. Let me see yours real quick.
Because you gotta
Now?
go. Yeah.
You got this.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you right now, is just a little breakdown of society and money. 98% of society makes about $250,000 a year or less, right?
Right.
Okay, so where do these people put their money? Where do you think they put their money?
In the bank.
Or in the banks. And do you know what kind of products they have at banks? Like what type
Checking
of
account?
checking accounts,
Savings account?
savings accounts. Do you know what the return is or the interest rate is on on those products?
Like nothing.
Pretty much nothing. I don't
Pretty
know.
much, yeah. Checking account would be 0%. And the majority of the time, you're gonna pay a fee to have that checking account. Savings account would be 0.02%. That's basically where most people put their money. You know of any other products any other accounts? CDs, money market, people put their money in money markets. Their return is 1% on those type of products. So, and would you say nowadays that the cost of living is going like up or down?
So,
It's going up. Do you see it going down anytime soon?
Heck no.
No. So the cost of living right now is going up for about 4% every year. I can write on the whiteboard and show you. About 4% every year. As compared to your savings account at 0.02. So if you were to do what you're earning at your savings account at 0.02% minus your cost of living, we're already in the negative here at 3.98%. So we're actually losing money here just by investing your money in your savings account. So looking at the other 2% of society who make $250,000 a year or more, where do you think they put their money?
I have no idea.
Have you ever heard of any companies like Charles Schwab,
Mm-hmm.
Merrill Lynch, Edward Jones?
Mhm.
They're like investment banking, right? They're Schwab, Edward Jones, Merrill Lynch. You know what kind of products they give? What they give people for their investments?
like stocks.
They do stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and real estate. And the return on these is about 6 to 12%, as opposed to maybe your 1% over here.
Right.
So again, the cost of living is going up 4% every year. So here's your 12% that you're getting invested in here, minus your cost of living, and you're already up 8%. So in reality, the people with the most money over here, the rich, are getting richer at their 8%, and the majority of society are getting poorer with their negative 3.98%. So what we do here at Difference Financial
There you go.
is we show people how to get from here to here by means of education. And we could show you that by showing you as a client how you can get out of debt within 10 to 30 years, or by showing people how to educate themselves and build a business
There you go.
and get yourself out of debt faster within 5 to 7 years. So my question to you is, where do you see yourself? As a client or as a what's the word? Business
The client or entrepreneur?
entrepreneur, or both?
Both. Good
That
job,
was great.
bud, right?
We're gonna talk after class.
Right.
That was
So,
awesome,
yeah,
man. Good job.
So just a couple of things, so as you get more flow with that, like this becomes muscle memory, you'll inject more. The big point that I really want to emphasize is when you say, I try to go from here to here through education, I always get a validation from that. And you always want to do like a trial close is, so do you see the value in this? Because you want them to say, yes, I do. Because if they're just like, you know, that means that you haven't captivated them. So when you say, do you see the value in this, and they say yes, in other words, you're saying, would you like to be my client? Yes, right? If they see value in it, that means that they're personally interested in this content, right? So it's like a trial close. So it's like asking for sale without literally asking for a sale, if that makes sense. You know, and so you want to be able to do that. Like, hey, if we can help you go from here to here through education, that's what we do. Do you see the value in that? Yeah, man, you'll get feedback to this. Yeah, dude, that's really good, man. I need help with that. You'll have people say subtle comments like that. We'll be like, yeah, man, that's what I'm here to do. I want to help you. Right? But great job, bud.
Yeah, great job.
That's good.
Thanks.
So, you know, it made me realize, like, I want to get you guys more on, okay, let's practice, like, the how-tos, the scripts, like the very fundamental things that you got to get down. This is one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, we can't be confident about it if we don't know how to, you know, go through the most basic.
You want to get it down. This is the tiny of the shoes here difference. You know, it's like everybody should have an Napkin presentation down, right? And so we as leaders, right? You know, if I got people that have been around a while, like I still don't feel confident with that. That says why you probably haven't been scared to talk to people because you don't feel confident about the fundamentals yet, right? And that's my homework for you guys is to practice that until it's not like you got to get that down. This should not ever be like this is week one stuff the way I see it.